Is Oyasumi Punpun as sad as everyone says it is? No. But, is it a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and is it worth reading? Yes. One thing you can immediately take note of when looking at Punpun is its imagery. And this just so happens to be one of my favorite parts about this entire series. The imagery itself is really disturbing, and when you begin to put the pieces together and analyze each situation in Punpun and look at it without its childish lens and take every scenario for what it is, you begin to see the real horrors of this manga. Now, what exactly would make this so horrible? When looking at these bird characters, you just so happen to keep in mind that they live in the real world, let alone a world that is very similar to our own. You see, it's no secret that Punpun's life sucks. And with there being 7 billion people on this earth, Punpun's life is nothing more than another possibility. The illusion that someone could live their life like Punpun. And this is one of the manga's greatest strengths. And this is all thanks to the very idea that there could be someone who lives their life like Punpun, or could be arguably worse off. Not only does Punpun acknowledge that his life isn't the best, but the people around him also comment about how sad his life really is, making them glad that they are not in his shoes or him altogether. The story itself is a coming of age, where we see Punpun live through his childhood and later become an adult and see everything that he developed through his past and how he allows it to affect his future. All the traumas of his life, all of his dreams and goals, we figure out whether he accomplishes his dreams or even sets out to do them at all. At times, you will see Punpun literally just do nothing with his life. And at these moments, watching someone literally do nothing can allow those who live their lives the same exact way to recognize this same feeling that Punpun is going through. And for people who cannot recognize this feeling, it is inspiring because seeing Punpun do nothing will ultimately make you want to do something. Even so, you can't blame Punpun for living his life the way he's living it. From what we witness in his childhood, we can understand that Punpun has no real guardians or guidance. And whether he knows it or not, he takes after his same parents that he looks at in disgust. So if you're paying very close attention to the story, you can begin to recognize the nuance and the habits that Punpun gets from his parents. And some people may begin to draw connections to their actual lives. I am sure that there are people watching this that know someone who has said, I'm not going to be like my parents. I'm going to learn from their example. But then they begin to do the very things and make the same mistakes as their parents. Is it too crazy to say that to truly appreciate Punpun, it would acquire a certain amount of life experience and intelligence? I wouldn't say it's too off the mark. But even for those who cannot accurately determine what's going on in a specific situation in the manga, they can take from this manga and learn from it and apply these things to real life. One thing that this can apply to is how everyone in the story seems to have a different depiction of God. Punpun's god is not the same god that Shimizu would worship. Shimizu worships a poop head god, while Punpun worships a guy with glasses. And then you have Punpun's uncle, who doesn't believe in a god at all. And then you have some characters that pray to God, but they never end up seeing him. And this is where many different perspectives on life and beliefs come together and clash. And if they don't clash, they sure as hell make a butterfly effect and change the world in which Punpun is living in. And you see how Punpun's overall perspective in life changes over time from not only the people around him, but from each experience he goes through. At times, Punpun will want to do things that are best for himself. In the end, he may or may not make the decisions that are actually what's best for him. And as a reader, you will judge and question what's best for him and maybe what would be best for you in that situation. And along the way, you begin to learn what Punpun actually wants from his life. And slowly, you begin to see who he really is and why he is that person. I believe that is the saddest aspect about the manga. Is he a victim to his circumstances, or is he just a terrible person in general? It's the little things in this manga that actually make it sad, if I had to be truly, brutally honest. It's not something you would easily pick up on, which is why it's not as depressing as you'd initially think, like I said in the beginning. But when you come into it and think about each and every single small interaction, it really just hurts. At times you will see Punpun questioning whether or not God is truly on his side, and he's not the only one to think this throughout the series. Is it karma? Does Punpun deserve what happens to him? Do any of the characters in this manga deserve what happens to them? Because when you read their inner monologues and begin to realize what they're actually thinking, they may or may not deserve what ultimately happens to them. But one thing that is for certain is that Punpun spends a lot of time beating himself up. And with these standards that Punpun holds himself to, it either makes him or breaks him. There just happens to be one thing that everyone does in this manga, and it's they live for a certain aspect of their lives so that they can fill the void that they all have. Sometimes what you want isn't what you wanted, and at times everything that you wanted was right there. And when looking at the lives of these characters, they push themselves from simply obtaining everything they wanted. They do things in order to make up for something that they might already have. Or if they lose something, they simply just fill the void momentarily. And when people in the story think things like, I wish I could destroy the planet at this moment, or I wish this whole entire planet would just disappear, and a cult shows up in order to try and bring happiness and fix the faults of humanity and their negative thoughts. And this manga's best strength comes from depicting how vulnerable we as humans are to not only ourselves, but to everything around us. I would say the biggest mainstay to Punpun is trying to understand others, finding yourself, and finding what makes you free. Because without those things, you may as well just drive yourself miserable, just like Punpun.